Namaste everyone. Welcome to our 22nd day of the World Interfaith Festival. Today we have a special program related with Swastika. Reverend Dr. T.K. Nakagaki is our moderator. He is a founder and president of the Heva Peace and Reconciliation Foundation of New York. He's a long-time friend. He's a very active reverend to bring peace and interfaith harmony. We did numerous events within last 6 or 7 years, partnership events. My great pleasure and honor to bring him as part of this major event. He additionally is the advisor for Value Council for last some years. Why we are bringing Swastika? A lot of time people don't like hearing Swastika. I believe that is people's ignorance. In Indian culture, even Hindus, Jains, Buddhists, Native Americans, Mayans, and Europe, so many cultures, they had swastika as a auspicious symbol. But somebody hacked the symbol and misuse and abuse the symbol. Here we want to recover the rights of using symbol as a spiritual well-being symbol for the world. Here I like to invite Reverend Dr. T.K. Nakagaki, the moderator of this event. Reverend Dr. T.K. Nakagaki, floor is for you.
Let me unmute myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning. I'm actually sharing to my page right now. Just I hope I can get a little bit time, so maybe everybody else can share too. I guess. So I'm just sharing the Facebook Live right now. I think I did successfully. So now let me come back here. Thank you again, Guruji. This is Dr. T.K. Nakagaki. So I will be sort of like hosting this part of it, and as the Guruji mentioned about kindly about what we are doing, and also from my background, I wanted to speak about. But before, maybe sometimes the swastika is a symbol, so it's easier to watch a little bit of what I mean by short video, so that captures some of the essence what we're going to talk about. So after presentation of the video, then I'll speak a little bit of the parts of the important parts that I wanted to emphasize for today, especially the Interfaith Harmony Week, or Harmony Month, I mean, the Harmony Festival that we have here today. And but sometimes we use a lot of symbols for this gathering, but yet swastika is something rare to see during this time, or during the week, or during the month of the Interfaith Harmony Week, Harmony thing. So anyway, so that was one of the backgrounds. So I just wanted to bring the attention. There is a swastika still alive, what do you call it, in Asia, all over the place. It's not just a dead symbol or anything like that. Has been alive for over 3,000 years. That's what I'm dealing with. As I talk about, I'm preparing the film. So this film is actually will be coming up this year somewhere. So right now the film is done, but So this is a little bit, short part from the film. It's going to be coming up this year sometime. And they're called manji. Manji means Hakenkreuz in Japanese. And so that's what you're going to see. I'm going to show, okay? So let me share the screen. Okay, here we go. Oops.
Once you say swastika is good, this person is evil, so I'm very evil now.
But in India, it is seen all over, outside, inside, every place you see it. But here, we certainly avoided placing it outside.
But I think each individual probably has to ask themselves, based on their history, do I need to negotiate this symbol, or do I need to just let it be? On one side, it's really violent, and on another side, it's peaceful, and there it is.
There are people who today are being murdered by people inspired by what that means, by what that swastika signifies to them.
As long as they're survivors, and even children of survivors, the visceral reaction to the swastika is very, very strong.
When the people say swastika is evil symbol, I feel very sad too. Why do you have to treat a good symbol as that way?
I can understand that it's a misappropriation of another tradition's symbol, but it's used for nefarious purposes.
But to try and convince people who still are bearing the scars of that use of swastika, because whether Hitler called it that or not, if the last thing the person you love most in the world experienced was a person wearing that symbol, blowing their brains out, what they called it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. To them, it doesn't matter. And no, there's no maybe. That's the problem.
漫字を通して、じゃあもう少しそこにダイアログが生まれていく。だから対話が生まれていくっていうのが一番私としては大切なことで、その平和っていうのを私はずっと考えてきてるから、平和のシンボルっていうことはやっぱりどういうふうに相手を理解するか、お互いを理解していくかっていうのがすごく大切になってくると思うんで、だからそのシンボルをね、蘇らせることっていうのはある意味で人類の歴史をちゃんと蘇らさせてもらうことにもなるし、ヘイトクライムもどうやってできてるかもよくわかると思うんですけどね。
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the very, very short part of it, but then capture some of the things that we face when we use the swastika symbol. And so let me start with my part of the presentation. Or actually, I was going to change my background. I forgot. Sorry. Since today is something that we're talking about, basically those symbols, first of all. So let me hide myself. But yeah, so first of all, you see a lot of symbols of like this. And then, many people, if you watch this now, feel like, where are we? It's not the right place or something. But these are all good symbols, of the, even one old one, I don't know, you can see from my background. I don't think I can point it, right? Did I? But anyway, like which side? This side, start with is, this is a Jain symbol for peace. The non-violent is one of the practice that they do. So and then also the next on the top is the kind of old one. This is from the Mohenjo-daro, which over 3,000 years or 4,000. I don't know. We don't know exactly the year even, but then the 3,000, 5,000 possibly, and so those are Hindu symbols. And then here you see that in the middle of the top has a Om and then swastika together. As you know, the Om in a Hindu is a very important symbol. And so it's a sacred symbol together with the swastika. So, and then the left side, it's a Chinese Buddhist bar, but there's a Buddha with a, heart, the swastika in a center of the Buddha. So that's the Buddha's mind. And then the left top is a temple in a Kyoto, Japan, and of course the swastika in the top of the middle, in a big swastika on the front of the temple, and then the below is the top of the temple, and then here to the bottom, to the left, is also very ancient one from the Afghanistan, and so you see even like a change of the directions. One goes to the other way, or right turn and left turn together. This is the Buddha's footprint. And then go to my here. I mean, little next to the old one is from Kyoto. Also, if you walk on the Kyoto, you see a lot of different small shrine, and that's also the swastika. And if I erase myself, that's the Ganesha, the Hindu, of course. And then there's symbols here for the same as a big one in a swastika, red one with the 4 dots. And then the bottom, I don't know, you can tell this is a Japanese one too. For the if you go to the temple, they give you a good luck symbol, so you can keep it for safety and everything. And then lastly, to the right side is the for this one, right? Yeah, this is the when they practice the this is the Jain temple. They use the rice to create these symbols too. So anyway, that itself probably explain a little bit what they are, all of them, and so they are all the sacred symbols too. So for the interfaith, so which means those things are clearly the symbol of all the dharmic tradition, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and also very ancient, even before the Buddhism and so forth too. So as far as, so when we talk about interfaith, then, we recognize, of course, interfaith itself historically began with Christianity, so which is, and then the Jewish. So they start having a conversation about understanding each other, and then the spread to the probably Abrahamic tradition, and so the Judaism, Christian, and then the Muslim. And then after that, we just, like Guruji is hosting now, so Interfaith start bringing all of the people, especially in New York after 9/11, especially at that time, we all faith tradition come, and then we call it interfaith service. So interfaith service is all over the place, and so that's why interfaith now start including all of the different traditions. And then if that's the the way that we are going, and definitely the just ignoring the swastika itself, that's such a ancient but also present and a Bible symbol has to be in. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to share today. And so that, I hope that's the first important point, to recognize each other. So if they have, especially Western tradition, here, political symbol probably more like religious symbols are used for politically, possibly for the Nazi Germany, and so that became the kind of a evil symbol. But yet, that's only part of it. And then so the symbol itself has a long history. And then even the part of the swastika, or Hakenkreuz in the German language. So we just wanted to, first of all, make sure the information is correct, because I did the research for this area, swastika and Hakenkreuz, swastika, I can say, and for my dissertation at the New York Theological Seminary. And so I spent Yeah, well, anyway, the good enough of time to research and everything. And then one thing I realized is swastika, concerning swastika, here in this country or West, swastika has to be evil. That was one of the big problems. And then whatever we say, it doesn't matter. We don't accept. And then what is the common sense in the West? Swastika is an evil symbol. That's it. Nothing else. So that was one of the impression that I got actually 10 years ago. I'm talking about because I started doing a research about 10 years ago. And one of the big reason for me was one of the speaker from that was also interfaith gathering, and then talking about hate crime, and then of course people talk about that particular symbol, and so what the speaker said was swastika is a universal symbol of evil, and so that's where this thing start meaning, what do you mean by universal symbol evil? I mean, I understand this is the evil symbol possibly in this country in the West or America, but it's not the universal. It's more like area specific. But then the other part of the world, the swastika is a good symbol. And then this speaker, even though they say universal symbol of evil, he didn't know anything about Buddhism, Jains, and Dharmic tradition. We use this for our tradition. So that's basically the way this thing started. And then so, for my respect, of course, I also went to the what do you call it, Europe, to see the Poland and also Auschwitz and Treblinka, and as well as Germany, and see how these things are used. And then what I saw was, there's no explanation of the swastika in the East. First of all, all the place I went to, all the museum I think possible that I can find, but then every place there's nothing talking about the good swastika. Everything is bad. And then even some museum emphasize this is a bad symbol, like that. And so those are my background to start with this particular symbol, approaching the symbols. And so I just prepare a little bit, just for your knowledge, I wanted to share some of the screen, what do you call it, PowerPoint, just very short, but then at least the important point I want you to know, and especially the audience for looking at this may not know exactly what we are talking about, or am I talking about, then that's what I need to share, I think. So one thing is, oh, sorry, this is a wrong word, but by the way, this is the book that I wrote based upon the research. And so it is available for, you can just look up by the Buddhist swastika and Hitler's cross, and then you can go to the Amazon, you can just, search. And then there's a Kindle book, and then paperback too. So anyway, so mine goes to the front. Front is, of course, for the interface for today. So we do talk about swastika, universal symbol, peace and harmony for today, simply because that has been the symbol for swastika. It's not really, although I said reclaim, the words that reclaim is not really correct in one way, because there's nothing to reclaim because it has been used anyway. But then some countries never recognize the existence of the swastika is a good symbol for many, many years. So it's a lack of knowledge about the swastika itself. So what I'm going to bring today is, the swastika is also, well, actually much more than the evil symbol. This is a great sacred symbol and auspicious symbol and peace symbol, and also represent the harmony. I mean, if you really look at the symbol itself, you can tell. And so now I added a little bit here of what is a swastika, and then actually, Hitler never said swastika at all. Although English translation, if you read the English translation, what the Hitler said or do, it's always a swastika. However, that's only English translation. So Hitler never ever said swastika in his speech or in his writing. like a Mein Kampf also. So it's always Hakenkreuz, German language, meaning hooked cross. So it's a symbol of cross, actually. And so you can see the old cross and then the, swastika. Or this is not, so I shouldn't be even called swastika. Hakenkreuz, hooked cross, is used in the same flag. So, by the way, the one thing that I didn't explain, I realize now, these are somebody else. I explained that this part, right side of the pictures. So who are in the middle? This is a Native American. So there's a Native American basketball team used to be, and then the Celt, they put it together. And so Native American use a lot of swastika in the past. So it is that in their sense, until the war, the swastika has been used many parts of Native American culture in this country. So, and here a little, make sure some of the understanding of Hakenkreuz and swastika. So, these all those symbols you see in the bottom, these are all swastika, So the various kind of shape of swastika exist, and then plus when you talk about the meaning of the swastika, su means good, and then vasti means to be, and then ka make that's a suffix make the noun. So which means good or good to be good, or so it's a positive and auspicious symbol. So that's wanted to make sure well, these are a swastika history that we have, and then but then Hakenkreuz is only more like a really consider like terms of specifically the Nazi Germany. And then since then, the hate group are also succeeding that kind of tradition. So but then they never learn. The Hitler says always Hakenkreuz. But anyway, hooked cross, like this explanation that I have. And then maybe one difference, I mean, of course, standard one of the, Hakenkreuz or hooked cross is actually kind of angles. Although in the middle one is, sometimes when they have a flag, they have this kind of shape. But yet, most of the time when the Hakenkreuz hooked cross, normally like angles, 45-degree angle. And then the other swastika, if you look at here, there are some like angle one too, but most of them are kind of a not angle type of swastika. Anyway, so sorry, maybe I'll just show some example of the some word how to use it. Yeah, if you need a little more explanation, I'll come back later. And if you have any questions, and so see, like these are German language on the top it's from the Mein Kampf, one of the main parts of the important part of understanding the meaning of hooked cross or Hakenkreuz. And then so you can see the Hakenkreuz there. So that's one thing and then anti-Semitism, you can see what's anti-Semitism words here in the German. And so other words, well, anyway, Aryan is another word actually was used in white supremacy type of things. But then Aryan originally in the Sanskrit words too. Arya is the word of noble. So even in Buddhism, we have a noble truth. Four noble truths is called Aryan Satya. So Aryan is a noble, and then Satya is the truth. And so anyways, so there's specifically talking about this. And then, so on the contrary, for my background, the Buddhist. So actually, I was going to begin with my quotes, but I forgot to do that. But anyway, so maybe this is a good part for me. So I'll just read it as the way to see how the Buddhists use. This is from the sutras, and Srangama, Sutra of Srangama. And at that time, the Tathagata, which means Buddha, exposed the treasure-like light from the swastika on his chest. The light has 100,000 colors and illuminates all Buddha's world spread like a particle throughout 10 quarters. So this is a light like a sunlight to embrace all and then transform the evil into virtues. And here also have the same similar from the swastika, diamond-like adornments in his heart spread the great bright light. So that's like a quote that I wanted to do today. And in case if you wanted to know where you find the swastika, it's all over the world. So that's why it is a universal symbol of good. This, by the way, it's not the Nazi Germany swastika that this is the map created 1893 or 4, I forgot exact year, but 1890 something by Thomas Wilson. So he researched all of the swastika available in entire world by support. I mean, the money funding came from the Smithsonian Museum, in Washington. So he went through all over the world, and then get where the swastika exists, and so it's existed basically all over the place. So that's why this is a universal symbol of good instead of a universal symbol of evil from that sense. So it's really universally accepted symbol. But yet now, although we can't still use it well, but then what you see this one is of course the burning cross, but the KKK, I believe this one, and hate group. But then why some people consider this symbol cross is good in a Christian church, but then swastika, if you see the swastika, is always evil. That's impossible too, right? If you just look at this, if this cross is a good symbol, then swastika should be the good symbol too, maybe. So, and some people even wear the cross in a pendant. And then if some people see that somebody wear the swastika in a pendant, they may be surprised and offended. But that itself is also really kind of not less because of the, society itself is the way that this symbol is taught as a very, very evil symbol, but it's not really the factual. And then this is a one that later maybe we can discuss after the presentation, but there is some statement that I'd like to present this time for interfaith. From the interfaith kind of declaration of the swastika, but I'm gonna read it later. So that's that I wanted to stop here, and then something that you can just wait until the next part of the presentation. And so these are some of the things that we try to focus on, the difference of the swastika and versus Hakenkreuz. And then we have various speakers today, and then so I can call Shri Aryama, I guess. So maybe he can start. And okay, thank you so much for joining today. And please. Guruji, are you going to introduce? How does that work?
If we can introduce, that will be wonderful.
Oh, okay. If you don't mind, can you introduce yourself and start with the talk? That may be the easiest. But let me bring it the background just one second. But if you don't mind, you can start save a time.
Yes, I'll start.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shri Aryama ji is one of the senior disciples of Shri Bhagavan Satya Sai Babaji, and is the advisor to the Sarvadharma Center in New Jersey and advisor to Value community.
Lot of howling.
I'm saying because I have to moving here.
Okay.
So without delay, I want to invite Aryama ji to give the speech.
Thank you very much, Guruji and Nakagaki-san. Your presentation was very wonderful. So namaste, sisters and brothers. Namaste. Salutations to you all. I'm very happy to see you all again. I'm an advisor for the Sri Satya Sai Baba Associated Sarvadharma Service Center in Howell, New Jersey, which conducts service activities in the local and international communities, including soup kitchen, food bank activities, yoga classes, spiritual events, disaster relief activities, and others. So I come from a long line of traditional Vedic pundits. In other words, those who can recite and teach and expound on the Vedas, which are the Indian books of knowledge or part of the Indian religion, or tradition, you might say. I'm the first in the line not to be a Vedic pundit because of the changes that happened after independence of India. So I'm an electrical engineer, by the way, and unfortunately I'm giving this from a car because I have a client meeting in a little while. So I'm glad at least I was able to attend this beginning of this conference. So I will begin with a universal prayer from the Rigveda, the Gayatri Mantra. Om Bhur Svaha Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonah Prachodayat. And the meaning is, we meditate on the effulgence of our Supreme Lord, who is our creator, inspirer, and source of eternal joy. May this light inspire and illumine our intellect and dispel the darkness. So once again, it's an honor to be here with you today. Our thanks to Guru Dileepji for organizing many successful interfaith meetings for many years, and I'm very happy to have been associated with him for decades. And Swami Bua, I had met in the 70s, so we have a long mutual friendship and a long relationship. And thanks also to Dr. T.K. Nakagaki-san for moderating this meeting on swastika, the universal symbol of peace and harmony. He's written an excellent book on the swastika, the Buddhist swastika, and Hitler's cross, rescuing a symbol of peace from the forces of hate. Very good book. So all mankind is descended from one couple, Adam and Eve in the Christian tradition, or Manu and Shatarupa in the Hindu tradition. A noble person is an Arya. That's it. That could be anywhere, anyone of any religion can be an Arya if he is noble. Now I'll start on swastika, the defamation of the Hindu symbol of auspiciousness. All auspicious rituals of Hindus across the world begin with Om and have a symbol using the swastika. Many other religions also use it, Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism. Buddha, in fact, is considered an avatar of Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. So he's one of the pantheon of Hindu avatars or descent of God to the world. So how has such a benedictory symbol of swastika come to be associated with Hitler, Nazis, hatred, anti-Semitism, and genocide? What led to the false association of the Nazi hooked cross or Hakenkreuz with the Hindu swastika? How could Hinduism, that openly accepts a myriad ways of worship and spiritual goals from all the family of mankind, that emphasizes connectedness to the extent of proclaiming that the entire world is one family, ever be associated with such a hated Nazi symbol? It is because many people ignorantly think that Nazis used this symbol swastika as their emblem, and that stains it forever. So as I said before, all good human beings who follow dharma across the world are Aryas. So mankind is one. Aryas are those who are noble, who lead mankind from darkness to light. So it is a common misconception that Hitler used the swastika symbol. But as Dr. T.K. Nakagaki had mentioned, actually Hitler himself never used the word swastika to refer to a symbol. He called it Hakenkreuz, or hooked cross. Hitler first saw the hooked cross symbol in a Christian monastery, Lambach Abbey, which he attended as a boy. He later adopted it as an emblem for his party. There's no evidence that he ever heard of the word swastika. Hooked cross had been a sacred symbol of Christianity since its inception in ancient days, and it is very natural to find the hooked cross symbol in old churches and chapels. It existed as an important symbol of Christendom since very existence. It was even found on early Christian graves of Rome in the 2nd century Christian era. If you were to go through the English translations of Mein Kampf, My Struggle, an autobiography of Hitler, you will find the mention of swastika instead of hooked cross or Hakenkreuz. Mein Kampf was translated into English by James Murphy, an English Christian priest. After that, it became very widely used for the Hakenkreuz. Instead of Hakenkreuz being used or translated as hooked cross, it was translated deliberately as swastika. The English evangelists were opponents of Nazis, and they tried to portray Hitler as a pagan. The word Hakenkreuz was conveniently translated as swastika instead of hooked cross. When Hitler became extremely popular amongst the Germans and later unpopular around the world, the evangelist lobby associated the Hakenkreuz with swastika to hide the fact that Nazism originated in Christian socialism, so-called Christian, so-called socialism. Yet it can be easily seen that the hooked cross is not the swastika. Swastika is how it's pronounced in the Sanskrit version. Swastika is how it's pronounced and written in English. The Nazi hooked cross was generally tilted 45 degrees from the horizontal and always oriented in the S direction for their so-called socialism, whereas swastika in the Hindu tradition sits flat on the base. It is to be noted that Hindu swastika has never ever been associated with violence, anti-Semitism, etc. On the contrary, swastika stands for auspiciousness, peace, and prosperity. The Hakenkreuz, or the hooked cross, has been cunningly translated into swastika, and Hindus have been left to bear the cross of this distortion, both figuratively and literally. It fit into the plans of conversion forces against those they call pagans, idol worshippers, infidels, etc. Hindu temples have been attacked for the use of the swastika. Some years back, a major news agency removed a picture of Indian origin ex-UN ambassador Nikki Haley. Originally, she was a Sikh, with a swastika seen behind her at the Hindu temple in Delhi, because in their very words, it was also used as a symbol by Nazi Germany. So 20 years of hate, covers up thousands of years of use of the swastika as a sacred symbol of hope and auspiciousness. So we cannot immediately undo the years of bigotry that happened through such dishonest anti-Hindu tactics, but we can definitely actively speak up and have it rectified along with other colonial wrongs. So much of this is adapted from Indian, the Hindu religion, and from True Indology's article in Swarajya magazine. So I'll conclude with a prayer. Samastha loka sukhino bhavantu, samastha loka sukhino bhavantu, samastha loka sukhino bhavantu. May all beings in all worlds be happy. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste, and thank you one and all. May God bless you all. Shivoham.
Yeah, namaste. Thank you so much. And so it is, of course, my book is called Buddhist Swastika, but of course, I am expecting, that's only because I'm from the Buddhist background.
Of course. And
So
the Buddhist tradition is not far from the Hindu tradition. In fact, it is part of the Hindu tradition because Buddha is an avatar of God.
Right. So one thing is, of course, it would be nice to have a book called Hindu Swastika. I don't know who's going to write, maybe Guruji, or,
I'll take a cut at it.
that would be something that you have to be published. So maybe hopefully Jain Swastika too. Of course,
Yes.
and maybe Native American swastika too. Hopefully they can
Yes,
publish.
you
some.
highlighted that in your book. Excellent book, by the way. I
Oh,
highly
okay.
recommend it.
Yeah. Is there any particular part you like, in case?
I
Or
liked all of it.
I know kindly you recommend other people, but it is actually one of the things I want you to know is also this is a book. In order to have a dialogue, we need to have information. I mean, as we say, we need to have a correct information, and so that we can start the dialogue. And then many of the book, most of the book, 90 maybe 90 over 90% of the book about the swastika is always from the west side, and then never reveal with the sorry about the telephone that are ringing, but anyway, so that's always the one-sided. Everything is one-sided view, so we can't have a dialogue without just everything is one side, but then there's nothing for talking about like Eastern or also together, even like Hitler himself. So this particular book is meant to be used for the people. Whoever wanted to deal with the swastika, I want them to read this book, basically, simply because I try to provide as much of the base for the discussion. And then, so hopefully this book will be kind of a little source of it, resource, one of the resource, but then also develop more ways so people, more experts can, study more and analyze more. And so that's the book. So for me, this is a kind of fundamental, that people can get benefit out of it. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. You have to go, right? So I just exactly the time for
A few more minutes. I'll hang in there, and then I'll try to rejoin later when I get it. I have a client face-to-face meeting, unfortunately.
Sure.
That's why I'm in my car.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I understand. And so let me, as far as I have a little time to introduce next speaker, I guess, so I can introduce now. And so the one that I have next is the I just copied to my what do you call it? Oh, mistake. Sorry. Sometimes this technology works when it good. Yeah, here. Oh, sorry. First, next speaker that I have is, you can read it too. So I just write it. So Jeff Kelman was born and raised in a Jewish home where it was taken for granted that the swastika was a hatred symbol of power of Nazi Third Reich, and only this symbol. To the community to which Kelman belonged, there exists no other symbol sharing this shape. In 2020, Kelman earned his master's in Holocaust and Genocide Studies from Grazzi College with his MA thesis titled The Hakenkreuz, Swastika, and the Christian Cross. Kelman now engaged in outreach and education related to the swastika and Hakenkreuz. Now, so being very pleasure to meet you before, and he has very wonderful insight, and then his English is so much nicer than that I use, of course. But and then it was really always bring clear points of the things that we need to know. So yeah, Jeff, can you take over from here? Thank you.
Yes. Am I unmuted? Can everybody hear me?
Oh yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Excellent. And you should hear my presentation in Japanese. TK does a much better version of this in Japanese. So no, anyway, so I've got here, I'm going to share my screen with everybody. Oh, no, that's not the right button. Let me figure this out real quick. Share screen. All right. So can everybody see this? Should say Hakenkreuz, swastika, and the Christian cross. Yep, all right, beautiful. So that was the name of my thesis there. This is a condensed version of a longer presentation, so I chopped this up, so we'll see how it goes. But right at the outset, a lot of us have kind of gone over this a little bit here, but I like to review, because starting with definitions I find to be a very helpful way to begin, so we're all understanding the words that we use on the same footing. Words are very important. And as we'll find also are shapes and symbols here. So Hakenkreuz at the outset, as these are pretty common neutral definitions, as we'll find. So Hakenkreuz, from the original German Haken for hook, and together with Kreuz, this could be translated to hook cross or hooked cross, doesn't really matter there. Hakenkreuz is the word for I'm now just for the colloquial piece here saying swastika looking symbol used by Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party in Germany. And that definition might have some issues on the swastika looking piece that we can look at, but let's continue. Swastika, from the Sanskrit, a monogrammatic sign of 4 branches, of which the ends are curved at right angles. They could be going left, they could be going right, they could be something upright, they could be at different angles. I have found swastikas to be of all different flavors and colors. However, the name signifying literally means benediction or good augury, a symbol of auspiciousness, and that part is fairly universal across Jain, Hindu, Buddhist, and countless other indigenous peoples, going back thousands of years and really all over the world. There's also other words for it, of course, depending on the language, which you would expect for a symbol that's universal and also global. Of course, in the Japanese, for Nakagaki, we'll use manji, in Chinese, wan, but many of these different symbols meaning either auspicious or some sort of infinity or 10,000 or numerous pieces there. And then as far as my thesis was concerned, and some of the research that I was doing, I also looked at the cross as a comparison. So these different symbols as of power to religions, and also what they meant towards violence and unfortunate events. So the cross here as defined as the primary symbol of most sects of Christianity, composed of 2 intersecting lines. Pretty straightforward there. All right. One thing I also like to go over, as I mentioned earlier, words are important and they matter, is that shape and symbol are different things. But we confuse this oftentimes with the Hakenkreuz swastika discussion. Because let's face it, the Hakenkreuz and the swastika have the same shape. One might face 45 degrees on an might be angled a little bit. One might have left facing legs. One might have right facing, and so on. But the fact is, the shape is very similar, if not the same. But so is a plus sign. The same shape as a Greek cross, if not a more common classic Latin cross, and all kinds of other examples that we could give of shapes that are the same as something else. Something becomes a symbol when it's imparted with meaning. And how is something imparted with meaning? It's imparted with meaning when there's given some context or more specificity behind just the shape itself, but the actual colors, as we'll go into. And Hitler, having his history as an artist, was very, very specific about the colors that he used and was very demanding with ensuring that his symbol that he was coming up with that had a similar shape, but nevertheless was his own natural symbol, had a very specific color scheme. What did that look like? We all know what that looked like. It had a red banner for the background, a white circle, and the symbol itself being strong, bold, black angled lines at that 45-degree angle. It was used in a couple other shapes for his personal standard. It's actually not tilted to 45 degrees for his personal emblem there. However, for most uses, this is the common banner of the National Socialists, the Nazi Party. Swastikas, on the other hand, are ancient and dated back far before that. I'll go through this part pretty quickly because there is some overlap here with some of what you've already heard. This is one of the most ancient in Europe, the Snowdella Stone, as it's called, which was found in Denmark around in the 800s. Buddhist swastikas are manji and everything else here, as you've seen. Hindu swastikas throughout various different in religious uses and otherwise. Again, similar shape, but the context matters. If you were to see a building like this, you can imagine that that's not a symbol of hate. If you have, two neurons firing of common sense. Jain swastikas here, again, a similar shape, but a completely different meaning fundamentally. And I think if you are able to see, both the colors and also the context within which these are used, that has a very different meaning in terms of the flag. And really across time and place, we've seen this symbol used in jewelry, on manuscript covers, on all kinds of different stone structures and otherwise. Now, as I had mentioned previously, as it relates to shapes and symbols in the context that are required, it's also important to understand kind of Hitler's, the point was made earlier with regards to the Christian roots of this piece. And that really gets down to the word itself of Hakenkreuz. So Kreuz being the cross. This here is a display of a variety of heraldic crosses. So crosses that were used on shields, on banners, on signifying families or kingdoms and regions, fiefdoms, and so on. You'll see here right in the middle, if anyone can see my mouse, but you can probably see it pretty obviously, the red and the white. That looks an awful lot like a swastika, but this would have been essentially a hooked cross, or a cross that went back in that Germanic, Nordic tradition, and throughout the tradition of a lot of countries. If you see the X, that is tilted and looks similar also to a traditional Hakenkreuz of the Nazis in some cases, if you were to just add the legs on the end of them. And that is, again, a cross. It's just a tilted cross that goes to the St. Andrew, and it's called a saltire. You'll see that on the flag of Scotland, the core piece of the flag of England, and flags that use similar crosses of this nature all throughout the Nordic countries as well. So the fact is that when Hitler chose his symbol of the hooked cross, he very much was not drawing on any sort of history from the Far East. In fact, I would say that there's one thing I would actually do a mild correction of my understanding of the history from Ghandikota earlier, which was that I do believe Hitler actually was aware of the word swastika, but he was also aware of Hakenkreuz. And the reason is because Heinrich Schliemann and Max Müller and previous archaeologists that were German and philologists that were German had actually understood both words and had written about this. And this was fairly well known throughout the 1920s and throughout Hitler's youth. And they would have known both words, but they very specifically wanted to distance themselves from any notion that they were taking a symbol that might have had Eastern traditions or Eastern legacy. They wanted this symbol to be distinct. They believed it to be distinct. And they believed that, upon Heinrich Schliemann, this German archaeologist's excavations at Troy in Greece, in the Greek area, that this was of that same sort of pseudoscience idea of Aryan as the Germans understood it, which of course is a kind of debunked notion. There's no Aryan race as it's known there, with this kind of pseudo odd Nordic heritage that somehow ended up in Germany, but that was part of their worldview, and that cross was part of that worldview with these hooked angles. So something is quite separate and quite distinct from a traditional swastika, wherever that else might be throughout the world. The other piece I'd like to talk about is just, what happens when we discuss about actually, there's a lot of countries that do ban the particular usage of a swastika because they do confuse that with a Hakenkreuz, and they make no distinction. Oftentimes what happens is, political parties and regions and groups of hate across the world take that color scheme you'll see, and very powerfully are able to use what was created there in different ways. So the fact is that we try to, oftentimes in the West, snuff out a symbol carte blanche across the board, and we actually continue to give that symbol power by doing that. We remove the power from those forces of hate often by enabling the regular swastika of the Buddhists, the Jains, the Hindus, and these countless indigenous peoples. We give that power, which in turn white supremacists and groups of hate would then find less appealing, and then they would be forced to use various other things, which they're using anyway. So part of the point is that this is an inevitability in terms of the symbols that they're going to go to, but the actual use of the word swastika and symbol as they understand it, we could take away a lot of the power from those groups of hate, if we do not enable it to become a forbidden fruit as we are currently doing so. Now, an understanding of the paradigm as it is quite Eurocentric. It ignores a lot of a huge portion of the world, billions of people, in terms of how they understand this symbol. Personally, though, I happen to believe that it's fairly inevitable that on a long enough time horizon, and that could be quite outside of my lifetime, or it might be much shorter, depends on how on the sort of actions we all take and sort of actions others within academia and everybody else takes. But on a long enough time horizon, I happen to believe that the swastika will be reclaimed on the basis that there are billions of people that see it that way already. And the discussion that we're having is a discussion that's only had of this nature within the Western world. And the fact remains, myself coming from the Holocaust historian space and the space of academia of Holocaust studies, well, let's face it, this symbol, this swastika, isn't owned by those individuals or anybody else. There is a distinction, and ought to be made a distinction, between a swastika and a Hakenkreuz based off of the facts I already presented and otherwise. Previously, again, throughout the West, there were Jewish and Christian scholars that had a particular view. Some of the potential for bias is speculative, other is not. But as Ghandikota mentioned earlier, I think there is certainly some legitimacies to some of that speculation, at least in terms of the motives as to why historically we might want to have talked about this symbol as just swastika and kind of leave that legacy of any association to a cross or to Christianity to the side. That's obviously a legacy that doesn't look good to a Christian audience or to a potentially a Christian dominant or Western audience in that regard. But again, we live in a global world. You can pick up and fly for the most part, especially with everything that we have in this world. There's people from Hindu, Jain, Buddhist countries or countries with large populations of these persons that have been moving all throughout the United States and throughout the UK and otherwise. And that's certainly a trend that's not going to slow down. And as a result, there are going to be people who have an understanding of a certain symbol as they knew it, and who are going to quite understandably wish to take that symbol forward to their new home. From a Jewish and personal perspective, though, and one of the perspectives that I think is quite vocal on this matter, and understandably so, we have to ask, straightforwardly, if the swastika is redeemed in the West, and I think that it's quite right to say that there's no redemption necessary in the East or anything there. The fact was it was always seen as auspicious, and there was always this distinction made there. But in the West, it's quite obviously was tainted. And what would the real world effects be, we should ask, if we were to move forward with this distinction? And as I mentioned previously, I think the fact remains that with the forbidden fruit component, I don't think we would see any increase in violence or anything else associated there. Without the human connection that Hitler himself had to this particular symbol that he spent so much time and energy as an artist, as a failed artist in many regards, who was taking out a lot of that, I think, on a lot of different parties. The fact regards that this symbol and the color schemes and everything behind it meant a whole lot to him. And without a figure driving that particular symbol forward, and with an additional community from the East taking at least the shape back and the word back and recognizing that distinction, I don't think we'd see any sort of violence there. And so the question then begins, is begged to be asked, what are we really doing by continuing to ignore this distinction there? Modern use of Hakenkreuz by hate groups and individuals I think, again, comes back to the context. if you see this shape used in any of these cases, and these hateful words, it's quite obvious that I think these are not, Hindu or Buddhist or Jain people that suddenly decided to become deeply anti-Semitic and write this on any of these different pieces. The fact remains that context is key. And we ignore context at our own peril because we continue to empower the use of this symbol over and over by using this word and harming an entire group of people. So I'll close out. I'm almost done here. Essentially, what I've found is that these particular government regulations that ban this, again, create that problem. And see, like I said, I threw this together fairly late. So I had that slide already there. So what can we do? We can take the actual use of the word Hakenkreuz, first of all, and use that anytime that we see in the media an individual is writing about, oh, the swastika is used again, write to the editor and say, no, you should, use the word Hakenkreuz. This is the symbol that should be referred to when it's used in an instance of hate. And unfortunately, it will be continued to used until enough people can start to make this distinction. And then they'll use Hakenkreuz and swastika, and maybe even these groups of hate will then start to use other symbols, and that will take a lot of power away from them. If you have to translate the word, which I discourage because that does lose some of that German and Nazi connection. But if you have to translate the word, or if someone asks you to, it's hooked cross, very straightforward. And then lastly, I'll do another plug. I always do because I think TK Nakagaki's book is absolutely amazing and is one of the tools that can help with regards to not just being a good book, but also just having a lot of the other core sources that you might choose to engage if you want to learn more about this topic. So Thomas Wilson's book and otherwise, that was written in 1895 and is perhaps one of the most authoritative seminal works on the swastika in a pre-Nazi age. But he refers to all of the other works that potentially you might want to read about if you're interested in this subject more. And then that's always something good. And with that, I'll close it out for now and go to questions or anything else. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. As usual, you have a wonderful job for us, for the presentation of the differences, and especially symbol meaning. I think it's a lot of things that we need to be going back, because it's really, yeah, it's very, very interesting that, what do you call that? We all need to know, I think, some of the facts, and yeah, so I hope Guruji you'll enjoy it too. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll have continue for the conversation later. So maybe we just hold a little bit.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Sorry.
Then let me go to the next to the Aminah, because so this is the first time I actually invited for Muslim sister, I guess, to come here to join us. And because a lot of time this conversation, swastika, is kind of connected to the, Buddhist, Hindu, Jews, and sometimes Christian, of course, but yeah, and then but then somehow not much of the symbols are used in the Muslim communities, or I wonder how Muslim people might see or yourself see. And she read my book too, so that's why. And so I think she was almost like the first one who wrote some comments on the book. So I just wanted to ask her to come to join us because she has been working for the the interfaith activities, and then I've known her for a while now, over 20, probably 25 years or something. Yeah, so it's nice to see her back for me too. So I haven't seen for a while, but since she moved out from the New York. But so anyway, let me just briefly read her bio she sent, and so you know who she is. And so one thing I forgot to do is share the screen. Sorry. Okay. So it's just a very short bio, but Sister Aminah, Yaquin Carroll, Muslim, BA Religious Studies, Fordham, MPA, CUNY branch, and doctoral studies in philosophy and psychology at the Columbia University, and I don't know TC stand for National IEL Fellow, New York University, pilgrim in field strength and social goods for challenge besieged individual, the family and children. And she has a farm now, and so it's doing great work, and then with nature together. So it's like very kind to the animals and all the other creatures, and so that's Aminah. So Sister Aminah, please. Can't hear you, by the way. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, let me do that.
Okay.
Okay, now it's good. Now it's
Is
good.
it good?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, TK. Shukran. And it's Teachers College, Columbia University and Teachers College had a joint program in which I studied, had the good fortune to study. And I should mention that there were Maxine Green, a noted Holocaust scholar and writer, taught there, was a beloved professor, and also critical thinking Jonas Soltis, and many different wonderful people. Just by way of background, I was a street kid at 15. My life could have gone very differently. But my faith was always very strong, and I was exposed to interfaith at a very early age, and my entire family looks like the UN. And we have many different traditions represented, including the Abrahamic. And so that's what kept me together as I am. Really, I'm a raving lunatic, but apart from that. So I wanted to begin with a prayer that in our faith we use to open the heart. And in our tradition of Islam, the entire universe, all the creatures, all of nature, the wind, the rocks, everything animate and inanimate that's been created, bows in prayer to our Creator. So the name of this surah, or the opening chapter of our tradition's Holy Quran, which is our gospel, our revelation, our sacred guidance, as revealed by the majesty of the universe to our cherished prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, refers also to the opening of our hearts to prayer, peace, compassion, joy, love, and to the source of all enlightenment, whom we Muslims love to call Allah. And please forgive my non-standard pronunciation, which has only a wisp of the beauty of a native speaker. It is also written in our faith, let the words be imperfect, but accepted by Allah if the heart and intentions are righteous. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, mashallah. We begin all our prayer like this. I'm going to stand. You may not be able to see me, but that's okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladinas an'amta alayhim Gurul Magdubi Aleihim Waladolin. Amen. And that prayer translates as, in English, I've done a little interfaith here, transliteration. In the name of Allah and in all God's holy names, most gracious and most merciful. All praise is for the supreme majesty of all the worlds, the most tender-heartedly gracious, the most understanding and merciful, majesty of Judgment Day. It is you we ask for help. Guide us in the straight path, the path of those whom you bless to walk in beauty, not of those whose choices to do wickedness incur your anger, nor of those who embrace corruption and are lost astray. To be a designee to the World Festival of Religions is an honor, and I thank you, Guruji and TK, for it, and Allah and all the human organizers and participants. To be able to give a shout out to Dr. TK Nakagaki and his beautiful, deeply insightful and research jewel of a book is a privilege and a joy. Attendees, if you do not know this book, it is available in Amazon, and it is called The Buddhist Swastika and Hitler's Cross. I'm going to approach this just a wee bit differently. To me, what is very important is always the children and the way that the children come up. So I think that the World Festival is just an amazingly powerful source of energy to unite the world's different traditions that are as varied and as beautiful as all the creatures and all of creation, to come together in understanding and shared communal visions to make peace and reconciliation real in our tumultuous world. And I think that TK's book is a profoundly powerful place to begin, because in our faith, there is a dark force, and people can lend themselves to the dark force because they are tricked or because they choose to. And that clearly has happened in an instance where a symbol that is so holy and sacred and means something so sublime and is all about the sublimation of what is terrible and cruel and violent and hateful and hurtful can suddenly be co-opted into something that is just that. So the opposite becomes more widely known, and as the wonderful scholarship and sharing from the Hindu and Jewish colleagues here today have shown, it's only been a 20-year span that has completely devastated in the East in understanding that's not only centuries old, but from TK's book we know is found not only in mosques and in Abrahamic traditions and Christian cross traditions, but also on the floor and in the decorative tiles of some of the oldest synagogues in the world. So this is a terrible thing. And I think that restoring the beauty of the original significance of this walk in beauty, so to speak, using the Navajo term, that is aspired to by people who aspire towards enlightenment, you could say, in any faith or through the humanities or literature or whatever the paths are. Anyway, so I think we need to take it back. The sooner the better. I agree with Shri Jeff that it will not cause more violence. It may very well cause much less. And I would like to get a copy of his slide with all of the hideous symbols of the far right supremacists who are, some of them far left actually, who are, hijacking it, because I think it shows so clearly the difference in context of this symbol when it's used in faith traditions from the East and in other traditions from all over the world. A great saint in my religion, Malcolm X, also called El Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, said that we must find common ground. And this, again, is such a unique and wonderful and important pursuit. It doesn't mean that we have to agree, because we're all both macrocosmic and microcosmic creatures. And at the point of our birth, that juxtaposition becomes our exterior world and our interior world. And so all of the faiths that focus on one or the other, they also contain both, just as every human does. And so it's not that difficult to find common ground, because there's such a myriad of things that can unite us. And I think in this world, the big dangers are the denigration of all religions, because religions are connected with the hopes and dreams and the immediacy of individual people in the particular, and the universal aspirations of people as groups. And each body of work has three different manifestations, which I'll go to the Judaism to share, which is that the strongest of all faith traditions, they have shown that differentiate from cults, are the ones that have a traditional wing, a moderate or conservative wing, or both. That's before conservative became a dirty word, and a reform or progressive wing, before progressive became a dirty word. And that these wings also make sure that there are roots for the religion and for the people who are coming up in it. And so I think here what we're trying to do is get back to the roots and the wings of the swastika, and to empower people to understand that it's a violation of everything that Judaism stands for, to allow Hitler to hijack this symbol. And I am not a Jew, but that is my view. And I defer to people who are Jewish to have their own conclusions and beliefs about it. But I think it's a moral imperative. And I believe the great teachers with whom I've studied, and the many Holocaust survivors whom I know and have known, who have also helped me in my work with children, would come to that. Most of them are no longer here, but would come to that. So anyway, that's all that I have to say. I hope I'm not too far off topic.
Yeah, thank you so much. You want to show the book that you have a old book that I have. This is actually even not published by what do you call it? Right now this book is published by Stonebridge, but this is actually published, through what do you call it? the Amazon.com, you can self-publish. So actually, this is a self-published version of it. So it's actually very rare, and it's a little change, the parts. So and she has even colored one, which is a little, yeah. I mean, which was only existed like 20, 30 copies even. World. So it's in a way it's very nice that you have that, and so well anyway that was actually 2017. 2018, so it's a little more different, but basically the same. But it's nice to have to see it. Guruji, any comments that you wanted to make before?
I was so happy to hear from three of you, and Aryama ji also. I had to appreciate Jeff did that much work. All the symbols he brought from different places, putting together. So we get a vision. What is this? The transition from one symbol to another symbol. It shows very well. I'm so happy. Our sister Aminah bringing some about certain people go through hardship or they go through abuse and they hate it and they want to vanish it. That I see that part, but whatever happened in the past doesn't matter. This symbol is a universal symbol, not belong to Hindus or Buddhists or any other religion. It's a spiritual symbol. So we cannot finger point to any of the religious group and say they are bad. That's why we are putting this program to change the behavior pattern, because a lot of people are ignorant. They are not. They don't have patience to understand, sit and listen and understand. So we need a really international movement to make awareness about the spiritual path, how to respect, how to listen to other culture and other theologies. So this is where we bring a global citizens. So this initiative I had to thank TK Nakagaki putting real effort to bring this one. Wherever he goes, you bring this. It's very important. And a lot of time we cannot put these type of events in certain events because people get upset, But for me, I keep it open. Any group, let them speak. So I can learn something and find out what's the real stuff. It's very important. I'm so happy we brought. We have over 300 people are watching this program online on our Facebook pages. And I know they are watching every day. And it will go up to 1,000 within 24 hours. So for some of them, this is a new theme. Last few events we put this discussion group, and I am happy to show that video clip. We need more visual media to play the role, and we had to collect all the old scriptures and symbols and dialogues. So we had to compile everything in a video and give to the world. So people, those are smart, they understand things, Sometimes people pretend I'm spiritual or I'm religious. They may not be. When it coming to a simple thing, they get upset and they blast, So being a real spiritual person is very hard, Giving respect to all the other religious groups. That person should be a research-oriented person. Then they understand what is it. They need a lot of patience to understand things. We're trying our best. So I have a question. 2, 3 of you. What made you to think about this issue? Why you made this as a research or want to make a book because each one of you have a different religious background and cultural background. What made you to take this as a subject to talk about?
Okay. So I think I said already, maybe. So anyway, basically, this is a
It's a short form people to understand.
Okay. So basically, well, it is always a coincidence for myself for any life that I have, because I wasn't planning to really do that work for the swastika itself, because this is yeah, one of the difficult symbols and then also controversial symbol. Why do the people want to do? But then the one thing that I really was stuck in my mind was, this is also myself is before I tried to stop people using this symbol first of all, but then but then by doing it, I think we want to avoid the people hurt. But then in the end, before that's the case, but now people say that was a universal symbol of evil, and then I realize some of the people of the Hindu, like swastika is a very common name for the little girls too, girl name. So if it just they will be suffer because of this particular name, but then it's a auspicious name, supposed to be a beautiful name, but yet that's going to be other around. So which means now, by saying that's a universal symbol evil, we are hurting somebody else. And also, education, I was expecting more to be able to improve later on. But then they're getting worse. So that's why, or maybe somebody has to do, and I happened to be at the New York Theological Seminary at that time. So I just suggested, is that okay to research for this particular issue? So then my research began. So that was just, in one way, it's a coincidence, but maybe that's a karmic things that I have. So, but then now I feel very appreciative for the opportunity to study myself and then research myself. So.
Thank you. Take care, Aminah.
Well, TK is my reason. We were on the Interfaith Council of the Greater New York region. That's the affiliate locally for the Temple of Understanding of the United Nations that Juliet Hollister and Eleanor Roosevelt began. And TK, he has practiced such a lovely form of Buddhism that is, so accessible and active in the community. With his Hiroshima recognition days and commemorations, he did walking prayers and things before people even understood, anything about the Buddhist tradition. There were groups of people coming together, and it was such a profoundly moving thing that when he wrote a book, I was eager to read it, and that has made all the difference. So.
Thank you, Jeff. I saw you mentioned this and the research on this one. What made you to do that?
Yeah, so for me, I had been looking into a few different topics as to what I was going to ultimately write my master's thesis on. And as I was going through my studies, I think for myself personally, we were living, and we still are living in an age of a lot of political polarization and really a weaponization of symbols in some regards, and taking simple shapes and symbols that have one meaning and misconstruing and taking and affixing a meaning to them that the users of a particular symbol never intended and don't continue to wish in so many cases. And I found that I do find that when we weaponize a symbol, after all, a symbol in a vacuum means nothing. It's people who give it meaning, and they give it meaning through their actions and through their speech. So I think fundamentally we end up weaponizing, either intentionally or inadvertently, speech. And so we affect our freedom of speech, we affect our freedom of exercise of religion, as Aminah commented on. And I saw that as very dangerous. And another component, being a Jewish, obviously, I found that it's really interesting to know the history that Jews prior to World War II, they really saw the cross as probably the closest symbol to a symbol of, a symbol that instilled fear and that instilled, intimidation for a variety of different reasons. The pogroms that had gone on, and there's, various different massacres of Jews throughout Europe, but by various different, Christian groups going back, a long period of time. And so there had been this association of the cross with this fear really up until after World War II. And so the fact that that connection of the hooked cross, the Hakenkreuz, as this symbol that Hitler intended to have at least, to have been derived from that Christian root, even if not exclusively Christian, really didn't seem to add up all the way. And so I had to look into it more, and you can read my my thesis for more on that. But that was some of what started that journey for me.
Yeah.
During our discussion, I got a phone call from our Rabbi Stuart Paris. He's the president of the All Faith Seminary. We train interfaith ministers. And I told him there's a discussion going on related to swastika. Then he was, oh yeah, it's very hard to convince people, but you guys are doing a good job. So our founder of the seminary is a Holocaust survivor, Rabbi Joseph Gelberman. I used to work with him long time and became part of the seminary as a trustee. And I dealt with so many Holocaust survivors, even people from Rwanda, genocide survivors. You see around the globe, people are suffering in different ways. Doesn't matter with religion, that human behavior, the greediness or ego or some personalities, they like to step on other people and say, I'm great. This is the way some people are trained for it. I remember Swami Bua, I used to take care of one monk. He was 123 years old, very active at the UN. Actually, he brought me to the UN. And he traveled and met Hitler and stayed with him for a little while. And sometimes he say he's a good administrator. And I don't think he don't know about swastika, because one of the Vedas well flourished in Germany, because in India was invaded by so many countries, other cultures, and these Vedas came out from India to Europe. And they know very well, and the first Sanskrit university started in Germany before India, recent years, and they well studied in the Vedic text. So definitely he knows very well. So he don't want to acknowledge India for this symbol, and he may misusing. We don't know what is the real story with him. A lot of time people just manipulate things, But definitely we had to bring this important point to the world. We cannot use any of the symbols to harass somebody. We may have to do a research on the history of symbols in the entire globe, even calligraphy or any of the paintings. Different things are connected with this. Not only a symbol, not only a religious symbol, We don't know all the artwork, so much to learn about this. So we may have to go through all the libraries in different schools and colleges, find out, what is the real stuff related with this one.
Maybe I should mention one thing too when I do the research too, because I need to have a site team. We have a team to help me. So of course the Holocaust survivor, Elbogen, the Greta you met, so she was a Holocaust survivor and she was in part of it, a lot of part of it, and so I learned, the how the experience of the Holocaust, and I have an opportunity to go to the the Holocaust Museum, or and then also Auschwitz and every place too. So in a way, for me, this is a really learning experience, how much of that pain people experience. So and then even myself, before I start this project, I went to the all those places to. I actually went to the Holocaust and all of the place. Not all of them I can go, but went to do the prayer to go there, and then actually put the incense, just a little Buddhist chants, and but then that was very interesting for me, like never again, the words that never again so many times I hear, but then you sort of see that there, and then for me, of course, the idea was it never again for Jewish people or never again for all humanity. And then for the Hiroshima, I'm involved too. So it's a lot of things connected to the peace building. And then the never again for not just for the Jewish people. This is not, I mean, sometimes people consider this is against the Jewish people, but yet this is against the humanity itself, in a way that what happens for the getting certain people to the, the concentration camp and so forth. So it is not just, for me, it's not the Jewish fact. I mean, not only Jewish people's issue, but rather the humanity issue. How can you stop, this happen again? And so in order to do that, we need to understand what's really going on in even Hitler's mind, or and at that time, how can you people control? And even like, how can you kill people with a compassion? I mean, like that's somehow the things that are issues that we brought up. So for me, it's a really big learning process. So I really appreciate, even I actually appreciate now the one who said this is a universal symbol of evil, because without his words, didn't know anything about the Eastern. So otherwise, I didn't even talk about this particular issue. So it's yeah, it's a coincidence, but it's a very very interesting way that that I see the change. Oh, I just wanted to share before I forget, since I made, or actually this one, are you able to see now? The statements that we just created. I mean, actually, Jeff helped me a lot in one way. So, and then we get many comments from the people. So I mean, it's a still draft, but then this is something that we wanted to do. Jeff, if you don't mind, can you read it? And then if we have any comments, any questions about
Sure.
this, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I
Do you
think
want to scroll? Are you going to scroll down when I get there, or is there a way you can make it?
yeah, I can scroll down. Actually, go
Okay.
to the page.
All right.
Like,
Yeah, no problem. So the Interfaith Declaration of the Swastika. A swastika is not the Nazi Hakenkreuz or Hooked Cross. The participants recognize the transgenerational trauma of the 6 million Jews, 1.5 million Roma people, and many others murdered by Nazi Germany under the banner of the Nazi Hakenkreuz or Hooked Cross. And tragic Holocaust experience continues to exhibit an intimidating effect on the Jewish people, even in 2022. We agree, all forms of hate, violence, and discrimination need to be stopped. Why do we still call the Nazi Hakenkreuz a swastika? Recent research makes clear that Hitler himself only ever referred to his Nazi symbol as the Hakenkreuz, as again, hooked cross in German. Hitler never once called the symbol a swastika in his book, Mein Kampf, nor in any of his speeches. The Hakenkreuz is used as an anti-Semitic symbol and Aryan white supremacy icon representing hate, discrimination, and violence. On the other hand, the swastika, su, meaning good, asti, to be, and ka, forming the noun, is considered a symbol of well-being, auspiciousness, good fortune, peace, and nonviolence for over 3,000 years by all Dharmic traditions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, as well as for dozens of indigenous peoples, specifically spread across North, Central, South America, but also the entire globe. What has occurred with the swastika? Oh, not just yet. What has occurred with the swastika and Hakenkreuz might be compared to confusing sugar with salt. Both look the same, yet they're entirely of different substance. At one point in history, English translators and media seem to have decided to just use one term, swastika. Some may say it does not matter which word is used to describe either a swastika or a Hakenkreuz. This is an untenable position, though, in a multicultural and globally interconnected world. A popular name for Hindu girls is swastika. Imagine the discrimination that a girl named Swastika is guaranteed to face in the modern Western world. This is not justice. As the world celebrates UN Interfaith Harmony Week and month, various sacred religious symbols are used, yet you'll rarely find a swastika symbol present. Is it not time for the interfaith community to recognize that the swastika is a sacred symbol? It is a symbol that deserves to be acknowledged as separate and distinct from the rightfully loathed Nazi Hakenkreuz. The sacred religious swastika symbol has been religiously and culturally appropriated in the East, and it is in the West and in the East, and it's time for the West to be aware of the auspicious and sacred symbol of the swastika while acknowledging and continuing to condemn the Hakenkreuz. We call upon the global community to come to a new understanding of the sacred swastika symbol and return cultural custody of the swastika to where it belongs. The Buddhist, Hindu, Jain, and indigenous peoples that consider the swastika to be one of the most sacred, holy, and revered symbols. And there you go.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. That's really great.
And you're muted, TK. Oh, there you go.
Aminah, do you want? Can you see? Okay.
I respectfully endorse the above statement. If you believe that you can damage, then believe that you can fix. If you believe that you can harm, then believe that you can heal. Rebbe Nakagaki of Breslau. In Judaism, there is a notion of tikkun olam, which means to repair the world. The swastika being confused, I'm missing some words, in the Nazi Hakenkreuz, with the Nazi Hakenkreuz, hooked cross, is a broken understanding in desperate need of repair. No mud, no lotus. Venerable Tishi Nhat Hanh. In Buddhism, the lotus flower only blossoms from the mud, not from the highlands. Without suffering, there will be no enlightenment. The flower represents transformation. Awakening to the true knowledge, wisdom, and compassion is the key for the transformation.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is something that we will work on it. And oh, sorry. Yep. So, what do you think? I don't know, any comments on this particular? Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry.
I saw some comments from Dr. Wali Ajibade on our Value Community Facebook page. BBC did a program on the swastika as recently as 2014. Also, the swastika did not originate from India. There have forums on swastika since the 1930s. This was part of my research, and you can read my academic paper titled Of Blood and Soil on academia.edu. Would love to read your thesis, Jeff Kelman. The question that has not been asked is why Hitler chose to swastika to represent the Nazi movement. He just wrote, the fact is that the swastika is a symbol of threat. It is not a harmonious symbol, never was. It is also not fair to have Jeff read the statement. That could be interpreted as his statement. So,
very good. But anyway, yeah. So just some parts are kind of missing because of the internet. I mean, sorry.
Anyway, it is on the Value Community. The main live stream is going on. He just wrote it. So you can read it or you can answer there. Unless he is joining in the meeting, then he can
You see
explain.
here or?
But I know this symbol is all over the world, Europe, Asia, South America, and we don't know the exact origin of this symbol.
Well, of course, there is a book about all those historical symbols, the research of it. Of course, first of all, they will consider this is a sun symbol, the symbol of the sun. So it's the kind of rounding, and so it becomes the the parts, and then so that was one of the kind of understanding of the scholars, and so it is a sun symbol. So bringing the sun to the world. So because of that, I mean, if you really look at the symbol, I don't know how people can see this is an evil symbol. I mean, it's like four legs, four lines are connected to the one place. So it's like, and then but also it is like four directions coming, different directions from the north, east, west, and so forth. And so you're coming together in a central things together. So it's like a really harmonious symbol, and then also, it could be four elements like chi, sui, ka, fu, so ground, fire, water, and wind, I guess. So those could be kind of symbol together. And it's just coming to the all over the world together. I mean, actually, in a Christian symbol, in a center is a Christ, and there's a four, the people, what do you call it? Uh, uh, what do you call those? The Paul and the nephew. I mean Matthew and all those four, whatever the specific name should have. But anyway, so those things, and then for Buddhism there are four noble truths. So for like a four noble truth is a thing. So that balanced very well. And so from that sense, this is a sense symbol itself is a balance. If you don't have anything like a Hitler, anything happens, you just look at the symbol itself, and if you feel like this is an evil symbol, something wrong with the way that you're really very good elusive, in the sense. But then if you just look at just this particular line of the symbol, it is the one of the fundamental symbol. Even like a children, he may not know anything, might draw this somewhere, not as a evil symbol, but rather it's simply connecting to the four lines. It's kind of interesting to have a shape like that, and I feel that's the education too. But because symbol itself coming like a Japanese symbol too, it's always coming out of something real, and then it became a form. And sometimes it's the round for sun, but then the sun and moon is very difficult to see. They try to make some distinction, and then so they just put the some cross in the middle. Even like a cross symbol itself is connected to the light too, right? So these are very the Christian cross itself is also probably some of the light, bring the light too. So it is part of the light symbols, and which is really important symbol. This is a kind of book. So it's like a sun in the so it's like this one of the reasons that I think we choose this sign for this one is because of it's like a sun shining, and then like that too.
Aryama want to say something.
Yes, I'm happy to be back. So
Yeah,
my meeting.
welcome back.
So if we look at the swastika behind TK-san's head, you can see the four legs of Dharma, and the four dots represent the Vedas. So the swastika from the Hindu tradition is as old as the Vedas, we say. So the Vedas have no beginning, have no end, because they are the revelations of the Lord to the sages who then codified them into the Vedas. So it has a very long historical association with auspiciousness in the Hindu tradition, which continues in the Jain and the Buddhist also. So the thing is that the Hitler's 25 years of hatred is like the tip of the iceberg of the swastika. They're the thousands of years of prosperity, peace, shanti that are represented by the swastika cannot be dominated by 25 years of hatred. Now, of course, the hatred began even earlier because we have casteism, communalism. So the one family of man has splintered into all these fractions and are constantly infighting. That is the purpose of the interfaith movement, is to try to bring back that peace in society. And this is a symbol of that peace. So thank you for this opportunity to comment.
So I want to add something. When Hitler created this problem towards Jewish people, India is the only one country wholeheartedly invite all the Jewish people to live in India. Even America reject Jewish people. That's a history.
Yeah.
I request to all the Jewish community members, never insult the swastika name and insult our culture. Because we are friends, we accommodate Jewish community as our family, give that respect. It's very important. So those, if somebody made a mistake, it's not our problem. So we had to find out the truth. We had to ignore those people, those who put trouble towards Jewish community. We don't have any problem. So we don't want to get the blame swastika as a bad symbol. That has to be a good symbol. It's very important.
Yeah.
If I may, I'd like to jump in here because I think that when TK brought up the words that are so important for us to bear witness to, never again, there is an intersection here, and the symbol itself of the swastika, it has a dynamic component. Like, for example, in the indigenous traditions, it can be the 4 cardinal signs. In the traditions that cast astrological charts or birth charts, it can be the 4 mutable signs or the 4 this fixed signs or this or that. There's so many different ways in which it's been around. And when Guruji, I'm sorry, when Shri Aryama
Aryama, yes, thank you.
Aryama spoke, you know, the Vedas have an eternal quality to them. The religion itself of Hinduism is at least 4,000 years old, that it's been known to have a history. So a lot of these things, you know, go back to the dawn of conscious kind of belongings to different large religious groups. But we also have to look at the fact that the microcosm and the macrocosm of perception come together for the Jewish people at a moment in history when the atrocities were so extreme and so preventable, that they are specific and particular to the Jewish people as well as to humanity, the macrocosm of humanity, and that never again means something very specific to the people who have the memory of the terrible Shoah experience. And so I think that it's really difficult to engage in a dialogue until or unless I think that Jeff's amazing charts and presentation and thesis can be something that, you know, I'd really like to see become a book, because just the graphics alone give you a sense of how different these symbols become when they're hijacked by groups that have a particular hideous kind of perspective. So
And there is a point to bring why we hate Jewish people. What's the reason?
What's the question?
Why Hitler hates Jewish people? What was the reason?
Oh, I see.
That's a psychological issue there, you know.
It's yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
that
have
might
to
be.
do that.
That might be. Yeah, you can read the Mein Kampf. He explained it how he felt very uncomfortable and everything about what happens to. But
So
then
like sometimes we see a person, first look, we don't like the person. A lot of times happen, you know. Actually, that person is a nice person. And we have this misperception, you know. It's happened in different times. Even food, you see it, I don't like it. Just say, look, without taste, you know. So something behind this.
yeah, one thing he saw, I mean, I don't know what I should mention about this particular things were a little controversial too, but then the one thing that he, saw was the problem after the war, World War One. One of the things that why German, lost the war. I mean, his concern is more like I think his own national things, and then what was the cause of the problem. It's like a United States too. What is the cause of the problem for many times that bad things happen in a community, that they tend to blame, we just have a Chinese people some create the problem, and then the Japanese people create some problem, that some immigrants, they always get blamed. And it's a kind of same idea, probably in my way I'm looking at. And then, so what was the problem for the things? And then so Jewish people have, the kind of considered as a cause of the, the lost the wars. And I mean, that's only his mind. Sometimes in order to affirm themselves, they blame somebody or some minority group or something like that. And then so that itself is also very, very dangerous too, right? How you focus, bring the the cause, in order to find all the problem comes to this particular people, or instead of coming out of ourselves, we just tend to blame others. And I think that's the one of the reasons. And then it's connected to the the how you see the Christian symbols too, connected to. I mean, we didn't talk about much, but the Martin Luther, wrote the book called Jews and Their Lies. And then so this is a very very controversial book, but then he's the one who translated all the Old Testament, New Testament into German language, and then he's known as one of the very important person for the Christian history, right? And then Martin Luther. So, but then he actually was kind to the Jewish before and tried to make them be a Christian, I believe. But then for some reason he got really upset of whatever happens to him, and he started talking about how much of the Jews cannot be trusted and so forth. So I mean, that's a big cause of that, because Hitler himself really followed Martin Luther, how he said, treat the Jewish peoples and so forth. So it's not the Hitler's creation, or actually he borrowed a lot of things from so many different people actually, and so that's one of the parts too. So it's the Martin Luther is one of the kind of a person make him do the things that he did to the Jewish people, how you should treat, so that which is self is very, very problematic, and then we should go back really like that kind of source. And sometimes we do, this is my God is very important, then the other God is not important. So so because of that, there's a lot of killing other people, right? When we talk about interfaith, that's the kind of challenge a lot of time that we have, in our faith, and the same group is tend to be friend, but we are same group of the one faith, but then if it's not one faith, the outside of the box, and they tend to suppress or tend to even destroy others because I'm the just, so they are the wrong one. So when we have that division, the normally just fight, not the wrong one, because if I'm wrong one, then I don't have reason to fight with the just people. But then most of the people fight because they are just. And then I know this is a real God, and so that's why others are wrong. And they just push their own view. They don't want to change anything else. Then what's going to happen is fighting. Even like I mean, that's very very simple, but yet those are really affecting to the people's mind. So sometimes it's religion create the the psychologically very difficult situation. So we should be realized when that happens. Oh, I know everything. Then you have to be very careful. Probably nice to have a wisdom is a wisdom of foolishness. If you know your foolishness, and even Hitler himself would be the human beings, which has a good part and bad part, and everything mixture, right? Everybody has a mixture with the good one, bad one, whatever, greed, anger, everything. But then if you consider Hitler is the evil, but then it's probably he was very kind to the animals. He was very, I mean, he doesn't like human beings, but he likes the other creatures. So, I mean, there is a different area of the people. I mean, one of the problem for us is actually this is a good person, that's a bad person. It just divide totally, and there's no way. Even like a swastika case, the same. Swastika has to be bad or good. That's it. You can't accept others. I mean, that itself is the same idea of the my God is right. I mean, that's it, nothing else. So no opening of the ears, no opening of understanding others. That has been for me the big problem for the swastika. So if you have eyes to be, or ear to listen to others, then people should be able to accept the swastika in the East. But then if you don't have eyes, ears to open, of course they say, no, you can't. I mean, they just close their ears. And many people close their ears when I started to do this research too, you're not my friends anymore, you like that. Okay, so fine. But those are one of the things. And before I forget, I put the universal, does it look like a swastika? So you can really say swastika is a universal symbol. It's a galaxy symbol, the sun symbol, everything that contain for the swastika. That is a symbol that we're dealing with. So this is the interfaith symbol probably existed in this universe too. As the Guruji says, spiritual symbol. So this is the sort of the symbol and that's why it's important. I'm not talking about little symbol for many parts. This is a really universal symbol of the harmony. And that's where we live, right? So this is a symbol of the environment too, probably. This is what we wanted to take care. But we are instead we are against all those symbols. It's a lot of problems. So this is a challenging for our age, but yet we're talking about the universal symbol of the harmony, peace, and so this is way to bring the peace to the world. Not bringing the violence and war and stuff like that.
There's
So anyway, sorry, it took a long time to say, but anyway.
He wrote IIT Kharagpur, one of the premier and academic institutions in the world, based on its research, has concluded in 2016 and that the swastika is at least 11,000 years old. So please correct the age of swastika in the written statement. So definitely we had to go through different research papers and colleges, universities, and we had to find all the details of the history.
Yeah.
And traditionally in the Vedic societies, the Rama's time, Shri Rama, the avatar of the Lord Rama, his time was supposed to have been 20,000 BC. And the swastika was there even at that time. The Vedas were there even at that time. India was invaded and by a series of invaders for 1,000 years. People were killed, millions, 100 million, 400 million. The libraries were burned, torched. 20,000 years at least of history was destroyed. And even today that's done. Even today, because there's a lot of anti-Semitism. There's also a lot of anti-Hindu things where all these ancient texts, even those that remained, were never digitized. It's a prejudice. You see, they have so many universities that are doing all kinds of interfaith stuff, but they want to push this aside because it doesn't suit their colonial, agendas. So when we want to do a redating, well, look at it from the Hindu, scholars' point of view too, because they've been silenced even by the Indian government, which became a leftist, anti-Hindu government. And then, of course, Modi ji is trying to bring it back, but there's so much hatred against the Hindu traditions that has been instilled into people who have now infiltrated throughout Indian society, Indian universities. There's nothing that can be done without these administrators blocking it. So I just wanted to say that there has to be a complete redo of things like Darkest Africa. Okay, it wasn't dark. It had great civilizations there too.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, I was wondering who is saying. It would be great to have you here with us.
We know the history. People try to destroy other cultures because of their greediness, the lack of understanding, lack of love, nothing else. Religion, they use the word religion to abuse and misuse it. That's the problem. Nothing else.
In fact, I would not say interfaith. I would say multi-faith. Everything that is of noble character, that sustains dharma, righteousness, that is what we should be doing. So even an atheist can be a dharmic person, because if he follows satya, dharma, shanti, prema, and ahimsa, then he is better than most. Okay?
Correct. I met so many atheists.
Hinduism spans from atheism to all kinds of nature worship. Everything is included under that banner. Sanatana Dharma is what it's actually called.
Okay. Well, I don't know, Guruji, about time is okay. I just wonder. It's always so anyway, I think it's already after 11, so might be wanted to conclude. But one thing I just wanted to mention, one of the reasons that I choose this day to do the this session, the February 22nd, right? This is actually the day of 222. That's one thing, but actually 1400 years ago today, I mean February 12th 22 of the 6022, basically 622, that was actually the there's one person, Prince Shotoku, which is a Japanese, actually considered as a Buddha appear in Japan, and then his name is Shotoku, the translate, but then Sho means noble, Toku means swastika, the virtues. So it's like today exactly the name of the Shotoku, and then he's considered the beginning of Japan. So it's like he created constitutions, everything, and he introduced Buddhism together with the swastika too. And then his name itself represent what this talking about Arya parts, and then swastika, I mean the swastika, the meaning of it. So those are two combined together. So that's exactly 1400 years ago, and that's a sort of big celebration stuff going on. But then so it's a memorial day for Prince Shoto. Anyway,
even the date of the Buddha is wrong in Western histories, because he, according to Hindu chronology, he's 1800 BC. 1800 BC, where they put him at 600 BC. So it is much older. Buddha itself, that avatar is much older. And and even now we're having trouble with China over Tibet, because the Tibetans were conquered by the Chinese in 1949, and the Dalai Lama left 7 years or 8 years later and sought refuge in India, like thousands of people before. The Jews, the Zoroastrians who were destroyed in Iran, all fled to India because that was the only sanctuary available to anybody. The Tibetans are in Dharmashala, and they're trying to wait for the time of liberation of Tibet from the yoke of the communist Chinese rule. So all of history has been distorted, unfortunately. For instance, Winston Churchill is a hero for the West, but he's the one who starved 6 million Bengalis to death when he refused shipments of food during the crisis that arose because of martial law and the seizure of Indian goods, Indian foodstuffs for feeding of the troops abroad.
Yeah.
So Indian grain was exported while Bengalis were starving to death. 6 million Bengalis died in the famine of 1943. So when we talk of Hitler as a war criminal, Indians think of Winston Churchill as a war criminal also. The colonial powers had their fist over Africa, India, Asia, all these countries. Japan was fortunate not to be, but it went its own path too.
Oh yeah.
Lot of
So we have to try to reconcile everybody. And I mean, we can point fingers to some extent, but then everything points back to us. When we point at somebody, three fingers are pointing back to us, because it's our responsibility as knowledgeable people to pass on what is good, to sustain dharma, to bring people together. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And then there's I learned one language in a Thai language. There's a word swastika is used for the greeting. You know, the savasti.
Swasti.
Yeah.
Swasti.
Yeah,
In
that's
fact, there's a
coming from
shloka from
the
the Veda.
swastika. So we're gonna finish with the three words. We just repeat the swasti together, maybe like that way. Then we can just say swasti 3 times. So that's what I would like to suggest you to finish, because I know this is a endless talking, and so we're just ending first, right, Guruji? Okay, so then the meditation, please. And then we do the 3 times swasti together after the bell. Okay. Swasti, swasti, and swasti. New greeting for the swastika greeting. But thank you so much. And thank you, Aminah and Jeff and Aryam.
Arya means son,
Arya.
actually.
Same Arya. Yeah?
Aryama means sun, the sun of the solar system.
Oh, so it is connected to those things too. Yeah.
The name was from the Rigveda, and my grandfather gave it to me.
Good. So Guruji, thank you. Floor is yours. I think I just finished that part. And yeah, Grandma, yeah, Queen, thank you for joining. And yeah.
Good teaching.
Thank you, Dr. T.K. Nakagaki, being part of this wonderful partnership event. And wonderful to hear from Jeff and Aminah, Ghandikota. And I'm happy Queen Mother is here. And we have over 400 people are online watching our dialogues. And some people are making comments. Dr. Valley also writing, and Kunat also writing. Beautiful. And we will continue our work. Our part is very truthful. You know, we want to be truthful to the general public in the world, not only for one culture or one religion, for the humanity. That's our purpose. So we have 6 more days to finish. Yeah, like a third, like 22 days we finish. So tomorrow we have a video presentation, and 24th, 25th, Interfaith dialogue again. 26th, we are going to have a commemoration of African History Month. I don't want to say Black History Month because not correct. African. But that is the origin of the human race. We had to acknowledge that part. And we are working on that part. And 27th, we'll have a discussion with all the speakers. And 28th, Monday, will be our gala celebration. And Ambassador Chowdhury will be the chief guest. And Assemblyman Nader Sage will be with us. And some other religious leaders are going to speak. We have music, dance, mix of stuff. Colorful 3 hours program. And after all the main guest of honor speak, then we'll open up for everybody to say a few words. That's the plan. So see you everyone tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Those who are in the night time, have a good night.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Guruji, for a month of satsang, as we say.
They're very interesting, you know.
And Queen Mother say blessing, blessing to all of you. And this was good teaching. And I'm waiting to hear from Jeff, because Queen Mother's intergenerational. Blessings to all of you for the good teaching. Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you, thank you. Jeff, where are you located?
I'm physically in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, okay.
And I'm in Harlem, so we're not far apart.
Nope, that's a few hours drive.
Terms.
Connected.